Hello everyone, this is Aayush again and welcome to another story. Today I want to take you on a journey of nostalgia, a journey which I have taken countless times because I have been across different parts of the vast behemoth that is India. And that is a journey on the Indian Railways in the 90s. Why in the 90s? Because that is what my childhood was all about. I think growing up in the 90s was very special because there was no internet, there was no mobile, and therefore you were always finding magic around you rather than in your screens. So train journeys were incredibly magical, and I think the magic actually started even before we landed in the train itself, because as soon as we arrived on the station, first thing first was to find a coolie, somebody who could help us with the luggages. And once we had negotiated with someone, we had fixed an amount which he would charge us. He will haul up all the luggages on his head and he would be off. And I was tasked to be with him as he scampered through the crowded platform as we moved towards our designated spot. And once we reached the place, the first thing which I wanted to do was to find a bookshop. I would just run to the nearest bookshop which I could find on the platform, trying to find a book which I wanted to last throughout the night, and also would buy a couple of magazines for my folks as well. And just like that, we would be off. So once we were in the train, the usual thing for me to do would be to sit beside the window seat and just to stare outside the window, because it was incredibly magical just watching people go by, watching the countryside, towns, because it was something about just watching people do their own things and calmly just be. And after a couple of hours or so, it would darken and, a little bit of chit chat here and there would lead us to the eventual question of what's for dinner? What are we doing for dinner? And dinner was also quite special because there was a proper process for it. Out would come newspapers. So we would be carrying newspapers with us, and newspapers would be laid out on each of the berths. And after that, we would just open lots of boxes of delicious food. For us, typically, it would be puris, aloo ki sabji, which is a potato curry, and it would be followed with some bhujia, some namkeen, and pickles for sure. And the great thing about having food on a train journey would be not just about the food itself, but also that how much bonding it would result into, because you would eventually end up sharing the food with other folks who were there in the bogie with you, and you would offer your food to them. They would offer whatever they have bought to you. And within that small compartment, you would taste the different flavors of India in a way, which is quite magical. And soon after that, once we were done with dinner, the newspapers would be duly wrapped up and kept back, and a small box would appear again with some sweets, and that would be passed around as well. And once all of that was done, the conversation would lead up to, well, why don't we call it a night? And, we would start ramping down. And even that had a really interesting process where we will lay down each of the sheets and the blankets on each berth. The berth itself had to be pulled down. And for me, I would always want the topmost berth because that meant no disturbance throughout the night, no legs clampering down on you from the top. So I would just clamper up on top of the top berth. And I remember there would be a very small bulb beside the bedside, which would have a big flap on it. So you have to lift the flap and then the bulb would turn on. And, it was the train rattling through the night and you are rattling along with it, a very dim orange light coming through that small bulb, and just a magical atmosphere all around as you are within your blanket and you are reading your book, Lost in Tales. Just an incredible time for a kid at that time. And I was not a very good sleeper in the train. I would eventually just keep an ear out for who is clambering on board, which station are we passing by. And I didn't mind. I just loved the whole atmosphere. Um, as the night went on, there would be a point when, of course, I would find some time for shut eye as well. And a few hours later, of course, it would be dawn. And as the morning came, so did a lot of interesting noises, a lot of interesting smells. When we reached the station, one of the stations on the way, uh, the tea person, the chai wala, will get on, and you would eventually hear the call of chai, chai, the quintessential sound of traveling in an Indian rail. And he will get you this small paper cup of hot piping tea, and sometimes would also get a newspaper along with it. And for me, I would always be the most interested in the sports section. So I would plonk myself on the lower berth and get the sports page and a small cup of tea. And the best part would be if somebody could offer me a Parle G biscuit at the time. Really, really fun times. And as it got lighter outside the window, I would just turn my attention from the newspaper to outside, because that is where the magic was happening. Hills rustling by, rivers, and just incredible sceneries of towns and villages and countryside and people and animals. And my imagination would just go into overdrive. I would be thinking about, oh, what if there was a king over there? Oh, what if there was something else over there? And I would think about often a motorcycle or an airplane, which would be just flying beside us as we were going along with the train, and thinking that if it could just go above this hill, or it could just go, just clamber on top of this building and whatnot. So just a kid's imagination in overdrive. And eventually we would come to our destination. We will, all of us would be just wrapping up. I would be asked to put on my shoes. And, the time would become coming that we clamber down the train. And, all these years later, when I look back at this journey, I feel like that statement, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey, really is encompassed well by the Indian railway travel. And, I feel it's got so much magic. It's got so much incredible energy about it that even after all these years, I can't just help but reminisce about it. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed the story, and I hope you have your own stories around traveling in a train. And if you do, please do share those with me, and I would love to hear them. So until next time then, thank you so much.